with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Look?
Here.
Commissioner Brassad?
Here.
Commissioner West?
Here.
Commissioner Schulte?
Here.
Commissioner Meisner?
Here.
Commissioner Gamache?
Here.
Commissioner Reinert?
Here.
Thank you. And next we will move on to consider accepting the regular claims paid over $500 and purchase card claims paid for the period ending April 10th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner West, second by Commissioner Brassad. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Brassad?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
That item passes. Next, we'll look for approval of the minutes from the April 14th, 2020 County Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Look. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Any corrections, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The minutes are adopted. We have two items today under Chair's remarks. The first is to recognize the essential contributions of all our county's deputies and officers as part of National Peace Officers Week, which this year is May 10th to the 16th. Law enforcement in our county is comprised of the Anoka County Sheriff's Office and 11 other agencies that dutifully serve the citizens of our county. Their efforts are always important, but in recent months, a spotlight has been shown on them because of the selfless and dangerous work they have been doing to keep us safe during the coronavirus pandemic. While we're sheltering at home and practicing social distancing to help mitigate the spread of the virus, they're on the front lines, responding to calls as they've sworn to do. I'm now going to ask Commissioner Brassad, Chair of our Public Safety Committee, to tell us more about this special week. Commissioner Brassad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, perhaps more than any other time in our lives, we recognize the contributions our peace officers make to ensure the safety of our communities. These people routinely put their lives at risk to protect ours. For this, we are profoundly thankful. It takes a special kind of person to be a peace officer. They oftentimes respond to scenes where people are experiencing the worst day of their lives. In these situations, our peace officers can remain calm, make quick decisions backed by years of training, and provide aid to those in need during and after situations have de-escalated. The toll it takes on them is sometimes immense. We think of peace officers as stoic, iron-willed individuals who can handle anything life throws at them, but the rigors of their profession are impactful. We need to support our peace officers and acknowledge their sacrifices, which is what National Peace Officers Week is all about. I'd like to ask Sheriff James Stewart to join us and say a few words. Sheriff, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. For the record, my name is James Stewart, and as I always say, it is my distinct privilege and honor to serve as the elected sheriff of Anoka County, and I appreciate you taking the time to acknowledge our peace officers this morning. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation which designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which that date falls as Police Week. This week has been significant to the law enforcement community ever since. Anoka County has a long history of support for this proclamation and for this profession. The Anoka County Sheriff's Office also has a long history of recognizing this week, and as you all know, we have been honored to host the Law Enforcement Memorial event on or around the 15th, but during Police Week for decades. And sadly, for the first time, we are not holding our memorial service this year due to the challenges created by the pandemic. We do encourage everyone to follow our social media outlets, however, for our online tributes to the fallen heroes of Anoka County law enforcement. As for today, our protectors, our deputies, are worthy of your recognition, and I thank you again for acknowledging them. Our deputies swear an oath to protect and to serve in the good times and, of course, in the bad. They have chosen a career path in which their own safety, security, and peace of mind take a back seat to the ability and to the calling to serve others. They choose to help others in times of need, to render aid at horrific crashes, to care for victims of every type of horrific act of evil that is thrown their way. And they also choose to serve others, even if it means sacrificing their family time by working those ongoing strange shifts and holidays. And as if their normal shifts weren't daunting enough, these days also brings them on the front line with the COVID-19 pandemic, creating even greater risks to their health, to their safety, and to their families. While they are used to confronting danger and battling the fear, they now have the added concern of bringing a virus into their own homes at the end of their shift. Nonetheless, they remain noble, they remain steadfast, and they remain worthy of this acknowledgement. So I will close by saying thank you to all of our Anoka County law enforcement officers, and especially our deputies, for accepting the call to serve something larger than self, to protect our families and to put yourself in harm's way so that others can live in a safer society. We all appreciate your daily sacrifices and your commitment to serve with honor, sacrifice, and pride. And I'd close by saying I want to say thank you to the Anoka County Board of Commissioners for your leadership in our communities and for acknowledging the service, the sacrifice, and the ongoing commitment of our deputies and the overall law enforcement community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Stewart, and thank you to all the men and women in Anoka County law enforcement. During normal times, your jobs are difficult, and that's only been heightened by this pandemic. You are crucial to the public safety of our community. Mr. Chair, I'd now like to put forth Resolution 2020-52, recognizing Police Officer Week in Anoka County, and ask my fellow commissioners to join me in support.
All right, we have a resolution in front of us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That resolution is adopted. Thank you, Commissioner Brest. Our Anoka County Sheriff's Office and all of our partners in law enforcement are working diligently to provide services during this difficult time. If you have the time and ability to thank them, please do so. This could be something as simple as a wave and a smile from a distance, or a message of gratitude sent via electronic means. Our backing of peace officers is profoundly important. For our second item, we're recognizing the men and women who serve another essential role in public safety and whose jobs have also been made more difficult and dangerous because of the coronavirus pandemic. I will again turn to Commissioner Brasted to lead our recognition of National Correctional Officers Week. Commissioner Brasted.
Thank you. The first week in May is set aside to honor the brave men and women who serve as detention deputies, correction officers, and other employees at the county's jail and correctional facilities. They provide humane conditions for inmates and work to help rehabilitate them, all while ensuring public safety. This has been a challenge recently as the coronavirus can spread rapidly in these conditions, endangering the health of staff and inmates. But we can be sure correctional staff are taking all the necessary precautions to combat the potential spread of this virus. We are certainly grateful for their skills and dedication to this important work. As part of National Correctional Officers Week, I'm going to ask Sheriff James Stewart and Dylan Workington, our Director of Community Corrections, to talk more about staff and the service they provide.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Brastad, and all of the commissioners. It's a privilege to be here with Dylan today to again be able to recognize our employees who do such an amazing job day in and day out. And as you alluded to, each year, the first week in May is dedicated as a time to recognize the commitment that detention deputies and correctional officers bring to their difficult and dangerous line of work. On May 5th, 1984, President Ronald Reagan delivered a proclamation designating that week as National Correctional Officers Week. Since then, our nation has recognized the value of continuing this recognition and appreciation of those who have accepted this calling in their life. During the 1984 proclamation, the President, and possibly the nation, began to recognize that our team members are no longer to be seen as guards, but instead they are to be seen as something greater because they have certainly expanded their training, their expectations, their roles, and their responsibilities, and are truly well-trained professionals. The importance of all staff members who serve something larger than self cannot be overstated because each one has a very important role. But our detention deputies and our correctional officers are unsung heroes. They're often out of sight and sometimes out of mind. And that is why this week is so important, because they should never be out of mind. As detention deputies and correctional officers on a daily basis, our team sees some of the worst experiences that an individual and a society can endure. They work with inmates who have sometimes just made a mistake, who sometimes are in need of mental health treatment, and sometimes are completely evil and wish to do them harm. Their environment is always unpredictable and often volatile. Our brothers and sister officers must actively engage in these unpredictable environments, sometimes in life and death situations, as just a part of their regular duties. A job that is being done 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, without exception and without excuses. Few people truly understand the difficulties that correctional professionals face on a regular basis, oftentimes at great personal risk. And despite these challenges, they rise to the occasion daily and work tirelessly in order to ensure a better chance for successful reintegration of the offenders, a safe and secure confinement, and an environment in which they minimize liability and mitigate challenges as they protect and serve. Their job is difficult enough on a daily basis, but these days are especially unnerving due to a little thing we're calling the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the challenges, despite the potential for fear, and despite that they are literally locked into a small community that could serve as a petri dish, our detention staff remember their calling, they remember their oath, and they show up and continue to serve and protect every single hour of every single day. In short, they play a critical role in improving public safety for our citizens of our county and of our state and beyond. And I would like to take this opportunity to officially say thank you for the outstanding work that our detention deputies and correctional officers throughout Anoka County do. Thank you for your commitment to excellence and your perseverance, and thank you for accepting the call to work in a challenging environment in which your rewards are few in order to ensure a better and safer community for all of us. And I also want to again say thank you to the Anoka County Board of Commissioners for your leadership and for acknowledging the service of our detention deputies and our correctional officers, and by recognizing their efforts, their professionalism, and their value. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chair and members of the County Board. I appreciate it greatly. My name is Dylan Workington. I'm the Director of Community Corrections. I can't echo enough of what Sheriff Stewart just said, that his comments are spot on. These are employees that show up every day, 365 days a week, or 365 days a year, 24/7. They are always on shift, always thinking about the shift. And there are circumstances that occur on these shifts that are hard to get out of your mind. And having done that work myself, I understand that, and I really greatly appreciate the work that they do. And I appreciate the county board to recognize them as well, especially during a period of time where there's a lot of uncertainty. When you come to work, what are you passing around and what are you getting when you go home? And so there's those types of circumstances that occur as well. And so we have practices in place to help protect our staff and also protect inmates and those whom we serve. And so these staff do an outstanding job of engagement, de-escalation at times, keeping peace and safety in a facility, sending people home a little bit better than they were before they came. And so they're experts in some ways in sobriety and treatment and all sorts of different things that come up in life. They run crews. They make sure that people get their medications on time and so forth. So it's a little community where meals happen and everything happens, that normal life happens. And so we're grateful for their efforts in even keeping a clean environment always. And so our facilities have always been well managed in that regard, and even better now. And so I greatly appreciate the recognition that you're offering, and I want to say to our staff and the staff at the jail as well, that we greatly appreciate our partnership in the facilities that we operate here in Anoka County, and we greatly appreciate their effort and their contribution to keeping communities safe. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, Dylan. Sheriff, I'd like to extend my gratitude and that of the full board to all of our correctional staff. The jobs you perform are stressful and critical to public safety, and the tension level of your work has undoubtedly increased amid the coronavirus outbreak. I hope all of you can stay safe while you continue to do your jobs to the best of your abilities. At this time, I'd like to put forth Resolution 2020-53, which honors the hard work of these dedicated professionals in Anoka County and provides special recognition to them during National Correction Officers Week, May 3rd through the 9th. Thank you again. So there is a resolution on the floor. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that resolution is accepted. And now we will move on to committee reports, and we will start with the Transportation Committee Chair Report. We have a number of items for you. First, we will consider recommending award of a contract in the amount of $7,469,999.71 to North Valley, the certified low bidder for the countywide overlay program in the cities of Andover, Anoka, Coon Rapids, Ham Lake, St. Francis, Nowthen, and Linwood Township. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Brasted. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner West. Further discussion? I would comment simply that we have a rather zealous plan to overlay our roads regularly and maintain them. Our road quality has been escalating almost every year. We take very good care of our roads, and this is one reason why, because of this maintenance program. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert?
Aye.
Commissioner Look? Commissioner Brasted?
Aye.
That item passes. Next, we'll move on to consider recommending approval to enter into an agreement with Bolton and Menk for consultant design services for the reconstruction of a new interchange at US Highway 10 and Ramsey Boulevard, and a grade-separated crossing at the adjacent Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, and authorizing the county administrator to execute said agreement, subject to review by the county attorney as to form and legality. This item is a consultant agreement with Bolton and Menk to do the work to design that interchange. It is funded with dollars that Ramsey had picked up through the legislature 2 years ago. So it's, we just need to sign this agreement with them. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Got a motion by Commissioner Look. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Look.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I had the opportunity to speak with the representative from MnDOT yesterday concerning possible stimulus dollars we might be getting from the federal government. Last time that stimulus dollars were given, there was a 24-month requirement that it was for projects that could be completed in 24 months. And they're not sure that there'll be a 24-month requirement on future stimulus dollars, but in the event there is, will this contract kind of position us for meeting a requirement such as that, or how might we take advantage of stimulus dollars if it becomes available?
Joe.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Look, thank you. My name is Joe McPherson. I'm the Transportation Division Manager. So great question. As we know, there's been a lot of buzz around both at the federal and the state level regarding stimulus packages and what they could look like. So to that point, this project is going to take some time to develop. We need to go through the environmental documentation process as well as a design process. That takes a few years in and of itself, as well as the right-of-way acquisition. So this project may not be a good candidate for a stimulus package. However, we do have a few others within the county that do fit very well into that category. One would be the Strategic Congestion Mitigation Project on Highway 10, as well as the support of MnDOT's project for the Rum River Bridge Replacement Project on US 10 to keep those projects going. We're also looking at some county level projects such as overlays, reclaims, as well as some of our other projects that are already programmed. So unfortunately, if there was a 2-year window to deliver this project, it may be very difficult to get this project through.
Any further questions? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache? Commissioner Reinert?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Brasted?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
That item passes. Next, we'll consider authorizing the county engineer to negotiate a joint powers agreement with the city of Ramsey to perform a corridor study on Bunker Lake Boulevard between Armstrong Boulevard and Sunfish Lake Boulevard. This is essentially an agreement to do a corridor study on Bunker Lake Boulevard because it will be a main reliever for Highway 10 when Highway 10 goes through its big projects, both the Anoka Solution projects at Fair Oak and Thurston and the MnDOT projects at the Rum River Bridge and the 169 Ferry Street overpass. When those projects get underway, we're going to see a ramp up of traffic on Bunker Lake Boulevard, and this is an attempt to figure out what's the best way to work on that road now to get it in good shape to handle that traffic. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Moved by Commissioner Look. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meisner. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, this is a
Mr.
roll
Chair.
call vote.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
quick question.
Commissioner Gamache.
When we're looking at this study, are we going to be looking at just trying to maybe upgrade the road a little bit, or could we be also looking at the possibility of any kind of expansion areas on the road?
Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gamache. So we're going to look at both those items, not only the item to just carry us through a construction project on US Highway 10, but also what does the future hold for that corridor? There's been talk in the past about realigning some of the roadways north on Ramsey Boulevard and Sunfish Lake Boulevard. We may pull that into this as well and really look at what does the future hold, what are the future needs for the corridor? So we'll look at everything.
Good, thank you.
Commissioner Look.
Mr. Chair, thank you. The Ramsey Town Center project was an agreement, I think, made before the majority of us, I think Commissioner West was here at the time, but it kind of placed different funding requirements. The city would absorb certain funding requirements. The county was doing certain funding requirements. And I think part of this project, the city was required to pay towards expansion of some sort. And I know that they, given the kind of the project's delays and postponements and things of that nature, that they were hoping that we'd be lenient and not requiring those changes to occur, and thus being a financial burden to them. Does this change any of those requirements in terms of the master agreement that was initially struck, or I guess I'm assuming it'll probably try and identify if they're still necessary, but I know that there was specific funding trade-offs, that the county would pay this, the city would pay that, and everybody was in agreement. So I'm kind of interested in more of the funding aspect of it, whether that changes that dynamic, or if it's just given the new, environment that we're in terms of, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, the Highway 10 project, and is there any, cost savings or efficiencies that could be looked at this point? I guess I'm wondering the genesis of the discussion, I guess, is the question.
Joe.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Look, you are exactly correct. There's a standing agreement currently where the county is paying an annual sum to the city of Ramsey for some of the improvements that have already been completed within the Ramsey Town Center. And then for future required improvements, one of those improvements is the reconstruction of Bunker Lake Boulevard between Armstrong and Ramsey Boulevard. And so this corridor study includes that, as well as the additional mile, a little over a mile to the east of that towards Sunfish. So there'll be a cost share involved in that. They'll be responsible for the portion between Armstrong and Ramsey Boulevard. And then ultimately, per that standing agreement, they're on the hook for the cost to reconstruct Bunker Lake Boulevard between Armstrong and Ramsey Boulevard. Now that's something we'll have to look into. If in the current agreement it states that it needs to be a 4-lane divided roadway, if the study comes back and says it really only needs to be a 2-lane divided roadway with certain features, then at that time I think we open up discussions again, and we look again at what our cost participation is and our annual payments are. So good point.
Further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Meisner,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner,
Aye.
Commissioner Look, Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner West, Commissioner Schulte.
Aye. That item passes. Then we have 2 items for you under transit. The first would be to consider approving to enter into an agreement with WSP and Associates to conduct a transit needs study. And I'm going to turn to Joe for a little bit of info on this before we vote.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners. So the county, about 2 years ago, was successful in obtaining a grant from MnDOT to do some additional study on our transit program that we have today and where current or future expansions could take place. What type of services are we providing now? And which ones are we missing? Which ones do our communities desire? Which ones do they want to see? So we were fortunate to get this grant. We've already signed the contract. That was an item that came before you several months ago. This is essentially just the follow-up to that. We completed an RFP cycle. We had one consultant reply. It was WSB. They did a really nice job with their proposal. They included everything we had expected, and I think they have a good team in place to walk us through this study and look for alternatives. So at this point, it's really just moving forward with that contract and getting the study going.
Thank you, Joe. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Meisner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Further discussion? Seeing, Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just commentary. That report by WSB was very robust. I learned quite a bit. And I am personally really glad to see transit needs being studied because that is a big component of the transportation system as a whole. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad, Commissioner West, Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
That item passes. Next, we'll move on to item 5, where we'll consider approving amendment number 2 to a contract, which is the agreement between Anoka County and First Transit Incorporated for operation of regular route transit. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Gamache. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meisner. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Reinert,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad, Commissioner West, Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
And that item passes. That does conclude the Transportation Committee report, Chair report, and we will now turn to the Finance and Capital Improvement Committee Chair report. Commissioner, excuse me, not a chair report, a committee report. Commissioner Look.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we had the opportunity to meet here as a committee in this room and discuss some of these topics. So came away with a few action items, the first of which is the committee recommends the county board approve the following master contracts for HVAC, which stands for Heating, Ventilating, Air Conditioning, Preventive Maintenance Program. HVAC repairs and maintenance and HVAC automation controls for a 3-year term with the county having the option to renew the contract for 2 additional 1-year terms for a possible total of 5 years. And we had Corvell Constructors bid on the preventive maintenance program. Corvell Constructors bid on the repair and maintenance, and automation controls bid on the, Egan bid on the automation controls. So these are contracts that we have annually, depending on the need that we have for. We always have preventive maintenance, but in terms of other work that we may have, that comes as well, that we can call these people up and get the work done efficiently.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Brassad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad, Commissioner West, Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert.
Aye.
That item passes. Item 2.
Mr. Chair, item 2 is the committee recommends the county board approve the following master contracts for plumber services. And there are 2 contracts there. Contract C0007869 with Corvell Constructors and contract C0007870 with Egan. Members will recall that we're in the process of hiring a master plumber due to the amount of work that we have here at the county, but at times we may need additional people, boots on the ground in terms of the work that we have. So these master contracts will allow us that flexibility to increase the need for plumbing services as it becomes available.
Thank you, Commissioner Look. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Gamache. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Reinert. Further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Brassad?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
That item passes. Item 3.
Mr. Chair, item 3 is the committee recommends the county board approve contract C0007326 with Cool Air Mechanical at Ham Lake for the installation of Cottage 10 hot water boilers in an amount of $128,400. As folks know, out at the cottages, we are operating off a large inefficient steam system. We've been patching that steam loop on a regular basis, and if anyone's had an opportunity to go through the tunnels, they don't need to be heated because of the amount of heat that's let off by just inefficient heat. So we're converting these cottages over to steam units. Water boilers, and far more efficient. Save us a lot more money. We don't have to run such a large boiler system to try and heat that campus. We're in the process. It's a kind of a long-term infrastructure plan to convert the entire campus, and as a result, we'll see significant savings. But this is for 2 boilers.
I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Brassad. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad?
Aye.
That item passes. Item 4.
Mr. Chair, item 4 is the committee recommends the county board approve contract C0007867 with RJ Marco Construction for the consolidation of elections into property records and taxation for an amount not to exceed $190,659. The bid tab is attached there. You'll see that there's card readers, there's technology, there's desks and those sorts of things that we're installing. I'm just looking this over here. It's actually a total project amount of $346,286. But essentially what's happening is we're consolidating elections over into property records and taxation. We're utilizing the staff, so there's busy times that property records and taxation experiences, and there's, of course, busy times that elections experience as well. But both groups will be able to assist each other, and it kind of consolidates some space and frees up other space within this building, and that seems to be a commodity these days. So,
Very good. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Meisner. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank the Finance Committee for supporting this. I did watch the meeting, and I appreciate Commissioner Look's concerns. But in regards to Commissioner Schulte's comments of, we still need to keep government running, and this area has not been touched since 1992. So I just appreciate, again, the support and having this move through. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
aye.
Commissioner Brassad? Commissioner West?
Aye.
That item passes.
And Mr. Chair, the rest of the items are for informational purposes. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Look. Could we jump into your additional chair's report for finance?
Looking for that.
You mind doing that?
Oh.
I think Commissioner West had a question.
Okay, well, let's do your additional report, and then we'll go back to her question.
Okay. Okay, so we have a additional item here, Chair's report. The Chair recommends the County Board approve contract C0003144B as in boy for a second extension of the labor-only service plan on the Anoka County Jail Security Services project for a period of up to 3 months pending the final negotiations on a new master contract, C0007303, with the same vendor for replacement and additional services.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Brassad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner West. Further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad? Commissioner West? Commissioner Schulte?
Aye. And that item passes. Thank you, Commissioner Look. We'll jump back to your regular report, and we'll take a question from Commissioner West.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would just like to entertain the discussion that we left unfinished at our April 14th meeting regarding going forward with the expansion at Bunker Hills Park. I understand some things they weren't mentioned in this report, but the discussion happened during the finance meeting. But due to the gravity of the situation that we're in, that our whole country is in, I think it is something that warrants a discussion by all 7 of us. No matter what we do, we have no idea what we're in for. And that was mentioned. I listened to the report, our discussion last time again, to make sure that I didn't step on toes or whatever. So I think that we need to discuss that situation. And I know that the contracts have been signed already, but we have a 2-week window, which is halfway past.
Let me interrupt just for a moment, Commissioner West, just to remind you that that was a attorney-client privileged meeting. We had closed the meeting to the public to have a quote-unquote executive session with the Finance Committee and our legal counsel to make sure that we weren't causing any problems of a legal nature. Because of that, most of our conversations around Bunker Beach, as it relates to previous decisions that have been made by the board, should be held in that attorney-client privilege. So we shouldn't be doing those over open airwaves in an open meeting.
Okay.
We should confine those to
Right.
a
I won't
attorney-client
discuss that
privileged
meeting.
meeting.
So I, as a board member and a Parks committee member, would like to request that we do a, workshop and discuss it, because we of course made the decision, and there's a lot of decisions we do make, and we follow through. So right now, we have an opportunity. We have fought over $1 million last time we decided the levy. We're going to probably have, I have no idea, but I bet it's going to be over $10 million discrepancy. It may be more, and we have an opportunity to conserve the funding so we don't have to tax the people as much.
Commissioner West,
And
I'll
I'd
stop
like
you again just to say that we'll take that under advisement, and I think we can talk about having another closed session with the county attorney's office so we can discuss with just the Parks Committee, or, we'll let the attorneys figure out how we can meet, but to make sure that we keep that in a privileged atmosphere so we're not sharing all of the details.
I'm just asking
Due to
to be
possible
included in the
litigation.
discussion.
Thank you. And for those wondering out there, it was a 4-member committee of the Finance Committee who did reevaluate our previously codified contracts at Bunker Beach for rehabilitation. We weighed in on that in a private session, and we'll work with the attorney's office and the county administrator to see if we need to further that conversation, or can further that conversation with members of the Parks Committee or the entire board as a joint assembly. We'll figure all that out, and I promise you a report back, Commissioner West. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Yeah, I guess, to Robin's point, I would support also some kind of meeting. I guess, conversation is good, understanding of some of the decisions that were made, maybe as part of the issue here, and just, I guess, just understanding how the decisions were made may be appeasing to the people that have objection or concern about decisions that were made. So I'd support Commissioner West's desire to have a meeting. There is a little sense of urgency, though, because if documents were signed and there's a 14-day window to have that meeting and maybe make a change, then it would have to happen, this week. So just wanted to, lend a little support for Commissioner West wanting to just, I guess, learn more about how things were decided.
Understood. Thank you. Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure procedurally, though, what I'm hearing. So while I absolutely agree that I would love to have a full board discussion, it sounds like that is legally not possible because of,
I can't answer that on the fly, and I'm going
okay.
to
But
allow our...
that's what you're figuring out?
Yeah, I'd like the
okay.
attorney and the administrator to work together to see if this needs to be a subset of the board, like the Parks Committee.
Yep.
The Finance Committee's already weighed in, and the Parks Committee could weigh in. But this decision has already been made by this board months ago.
Right.
Many months ago.
Right.
And so it requires an undoing of a decision. And again, we really should hold this conversation for attorney-client privileged meetings, but I will turn to the attorney right now if he has any comments on what's been said or any thoughts initially, or if it's something you want to research. Tony Palumbo.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I certainly support the chair's comments on it. It is, what you're talking about is a litigation situation, potential, and that's why the meeting was closed for purposes of the public. In terms of responding to Commissioner Meisner's question, you can have a work session if you want, if this board chooses to do so. With proper notice, they certainly can have a work session. Given that work session, though, I expect, because of the same reasons that the Finance Committee was closed, that work session would also be closed for purposes of discussing potential actual litigation that potentially could arise from any future board action regarding this matter. So, yes, number one, you can have the session. Number two, certainly at the request of the chair of the board, that meeting could be closed to discuss attorney-client matters.
Thank you, Mr. Palumbo. Any further comments? All right, and then that does conclude the finance report. And we will now move into the Human Services Committee Chair's report. Commissioner Breasted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item is that I would recommend adoption of Resolution 2020-HS7, which is approving the economic assistance actions and payments that have been made. And I'll offer that resolution.
A resolution has been offered. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad? Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Next, on to item 2. That passes.
I would recommend approval of Minnesota Department of Human Services Office of Economic Opportunity grant agreement for COVID-19 emergency response funds. This actually came out of a state legislature that passed a $330 million emergency funding package in order to help counties and such during this COVID-19 crisis. What our county is going to do, the total grant award is $272,950 based on a 30-day period. And it's really to help the homeless. We've been working with Stepping Stone and Family Promise and other homeless situations when they're in need to isolate somebody and there isn't any room. So this $272,950 will be used for shelter, hygiene and sanitation of various hotel rooms, and for staffing. I checked, and as of yesterday, these monies have helped 34 families that we have, or people that we have put up in 4 different hotels. So we're thankful for the help from the state on this. And it's been nice to be able to partner with Stepping Stone and Family Promise and be able to serve those that really need that.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Motion by Commissioner Gamache. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meisner. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Gamache, then Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, as also a board member at Stepping Stone, I just want to pass along their words of thanks to all that have been involved. Working with Anoka County, they said has been just fantastic. They've been there to help and all along the way. It has reduced stress levels at Stepping Stone for the people that volunteer and the people that work there. Having to have 60-some people and now down to 30, or we've moved some of the people out into those hotels has been very helpful in these difficult times. So as we try to keep people safe as we possibly can from the virus, that was a big help. So I want to thank all our staff in Human Services and all across the board that helped out, and then having the state provide us some funding is also very nice. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had one question about this particular grant. Is this something that we can reapply for, right? Because it's a quote-unquote rolling. We can apply for additional funding. So I just wanted to clarify that that's somewhat open-ended. So as this continues to go on, every month we can re-examine this and then reapply.
Commissioner Breasted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Meisner, that's exactly correct.
Perfect.
So it was kind of like a 30-day look-back period.
Yep.
So that was the expenses in the past 30 days. So we will look forward to being able to apply and get more funding as things move forward.
Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then just a follow-up question of how that kind of fits in then. So the total is $330 million, and then obviously all counties have access to this, so it's kind of a first come, first serve in terms of for the funding until it runs out.
Commissioner Breasted.
Commissioner, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to a vote, I'm going to turn to the county attorney one last time, or another time, maybe it's not last. Tony, because we're receiving funds from the state for this project and they're being expended at Stepping Stone as one of the locations, would Commissioner Gamache be forced to abstain from this vote as a board member, or is it because it's pass-through dollars being spent by the county? Is that not necessary?
Because you're on the board, I would suggest that you probably abstain from a vote.
Okay, thank you. I made the motion though, didn't I?
Well,
Now we know your bias.
County attorney, can we have him withdraw his motion to approve?
well, he can make the motion, he just doesn't have to vote on it, so, to be real frank, so.
Very good. Thank you. We do have a motion and a second on the floor. And we will have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Reiner.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Breasted. Commissioner West. Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Abstain.
And that item passes.
Wonderful. And that concludes my Human Services report.
Well, stay on the hot seat. You've got 2 more committees to report here. Let's turn to your Intergovernmental and Community Relations Committee Chair report.
Okay. These next 3 items are contracts through our medical examiner's office. And the first one is a contract renewal with DC Livery of Duluth for a term of January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. Includes a automatic 1-year renewal. DC Livery transports bodies from the scene to the medical examiner's office 7 days a week. And that's a great partnership with our medical examiner's office. And I'll move that.
Let's go ahead and take A, B, and C
Oh,
together,
okay.
if you don't mind.
The second one is contract renewal with SGI, which is Avalon, formerly Avalon, for annual amount of $102,300 in a term of January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, with 2 automatic 1-year renewals. And the third is a contract renewal to provide autopsy services for Burnett County, Wisconsin, providing annual revenue of $42,000 beginning January 1st, 2021, with automatic renewals for 2024. And I'll move those 3.
There's a motion on the floor to approve 1, A, B, and C. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner West. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Look. Aye. Commissioner Breasted.
Aye.
Commissioner West. Aye. Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner.
Aye.
That item passes.
And that concludes my IG report.
Excellent. Well, let's get you into your Public Safety Committee Chair report. Commissioner Breasted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would recommend adoption of Resolution 2020-PS05, which is authorization of signatory for the State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement with the County of Anoka on behalf of its sheriff regarding the Minnesota Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force, and approval and execution of contract C0007850.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer the resolution.
The resolution has been offered. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Brassad.
We do have Commander Brian First that is here in the audience today, and perhaps he could take a couple moments and tell us a little bit more about this task force and who is involved.
Mr. Chair, Board Member or Commissioner Brastad and the rest. The ICAC is something that the Sheriff's Office has been involved with for several years. Internet crime, it's the BCA gets cyber tips from all various places and collects them and then disperses those to the various counties and cities that are affected or where those crimes are taking place. What this Joint Powers Agreement does is it allows training dollars. The BCA will reimburse for some training that involved with cybercrime investigations. In the past, there's been some overtime dollars in it, but mostly now it's more of the training. It allows us access to stuff that the BCA has and potentially send us, our detectives, to other trainings that helps assist us with working the internet crimes. Our county, our detectives receive all of the tips that affect cities within Anoka County. And so our detectives are the ones that are investigating the majority of those cases. And so this just gives us access to some of the technology that the BCA has and some of the training dollars and that they bring in trainers to them, and then they also potentially will reimburse us for sending our detectives to other sites. There's some places in Wisconsin and other places that offer significant training in the cybercrime, and so this is a way for us to help get our folks the best training we can and keep them keep their skills up in those areas and get some training dollars from the state.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Yes, just a couple questions on the grant. Grants are great. I see this one expires at the end of the year, or at the end of next year, actually. And is this activity that's new, or is this going to be added activity? And then once the grant expires and the money is spent, is this going to be additional dollars that the county will be taking on to continue this activity? And being fairly new to the board and not knowing the historical activity that's been going on with your department prior to today, if you could just fill in a little bit of the financial gap in activity and what happens after the grant.
Okay, this is a grant that we've been participating in for several years. I'm aware of it probably dating back about 16 years. Okay. As far as I believe our office has been participating with this. This is dollars that if the grant dried up tomorrow, we're still investigating these crimes, whether we get this grant or not. And so some of the training would have to take place. This is more, this grant is more just a pure supplement, and that if it dried up, other than the training and the investigations that we would do on a normal basis, it's not committing us to anything that we wouldn't have to do anyways.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks
Sure.
for a little bit more information on that. I understand that the Public Safety Department involves itself in a lot of grants, and so these are mostly just supplemental in helping out with the expense you'd have with or without the grant.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You want to clarify?
Sheriff, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick expansion on the thought. The child exploitation is really the focus behind all of that. Everyone in this room has helped us to be on that forefront of sex trafficking and fighting this whole child exploitation thing. We know evil's alive and well, and challenging part of that is, of course, the technology. And so that's really the focus behind the ICAC grant, is to help us try to keep up our training with the constantly evolving technology. So it's kind of an always moving target, and our monster hunters do a great job in trying to keep up with that.
Yeah, the activity is not in question, just wanted a little more information on the finance, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reiner. Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think you already answered my question. I was just going to clarify if this particular focus was around human trafficking, which it sounds like it is.
Well, this is more the exploitation of children than just focusing on trafficking itself. So it's more broad than that.
Thank you.
We have a resolution before us. Seeing no further comments, we will go to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Rested? Aye. Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner?
Aye.
Commissioner Luck?
Aye.
That item passes. Item 2.
I would recommend approval and execution of contract C0007879, High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Program Grant Agreement with the Executive Office of the President's Office of the National Drug Control Policy in the amount of $145,960 and a term of January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021.
Is there an offer of the motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Reinert. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meisner. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner?
Aye.
Commissioner Luck?
Aye.
Commissioner Breasted?
And that item passes. Item 3.
I would recommend approval and execution of contract C0007889, the 2020 Sexual Assault Kit Initiative Program Grant Agreement with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Office of Justice Programs, in the amount of $219,020 and a term of February 1st, 2020 through January 31st, 2022. And I'll move that.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meisner. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Breasted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought it would be interesting if we had Commander first come up and give us an update on the status of this situation. We know that it's been in the news an awful lot for many years, much longer than I can even remember at this point. So, Commander, where are we sitting, and what's going on?
Okay, the grant that's up before you now is actually the second grant for the SACI grant that we've applied for. And what this grant will do is extend, adds a little bit more to what we're doing now, and then extends it an extra year. So the original grant, I believe, was applied for, and we were awarded it in the end of 18, but actually didn't start getting the ability to get the monies released until about this time last year, or actually maybe February, March-ish of last year. And so the original grant, and then this is an extension of it, is back in 2015, there was a statewide audit of all property rooms for untested sexual assault kits. And so Anoka County had, at that time, our number was 495 kits that were not tested. And so this grant was applied for as a multidiscipline team with the BCA, who was going to do the testing, because it encompassed much more than just Anoka County. Also MNCASA, which is a statewide organization that was going to be the facilitators of the MDTs, multidisciplinary teams that would get together, analyze the data. It's also a partnership with Alex Anderhaus, that we have an embedded advocate in our office that's working with our detectives. So the original grant got us money to, excuse me, to fund a detective FTE, a property technician FTE, and then Alex House got an FTE for an advocate. And so those three are actually embedded in our office partnering on this project. And so of those original 495 kits, we did discover that we had 4 more that needed to be tested as part of that. So our actual number was 499. As of last week, all of the kits that needed to be tested, sorry, I grabbed notes. So of the 499 kits, 8 had been previously we sent in for testing prior to this grant. So our lab itself did tested some of those. We sent in 402 kits for testing. Out of those, 89 did not need to be tested. A majority of those had already been cases that had been adjudicated, most of them already receiving guilty pleas or convictions in court. And so we are now waiting for the results back from those kits, and we're firing up into more of the investigative process of this project. And so we're reviewing all of the cases that were associated with the untested kits. And as we ramp through the years of this grant, our end product is going to be determining why the kits weren't tested in the first place, and then coming up with best protocol or best practices. And then even towards the end of this grant, and there'll probably be one more grant that we apply for to give it one more year. That will be taking what we learned and helping educate others around the state that are getting into the same thing that we've just completed. And so early results are, as the commander of the Criminal Investigation Division, I was pleased to find that most of these kits were, those cases associated were investigated, that they weren't just not investigated. We had investigations. A majority of the cases actually went to the county attorney's office for review, and there was various reasons. Most of them philosophical, why they weren't tested in the first place. At that time, we were dealing under the presence of it was evidence, in that the majority of the cases that these kits were not tested were consent cases, where the issue in the offense wasn't whether an act occurred, it was it consensual or not. And so the examination of a sexual assault kit was not going to reveal anything that's going to change the evidence. So there's been a different thought process from what we were doing in the 80s and 90s to now. That information, even if it's consent is an issue, those kits should be tested. They could potentially link to, serial rapists or serial sexual assault suspects, and that there's a value in having those tested. So that's what we're finding, early results of what our analysis is going to be, but we're still in the early stages of really diving into, now that we're getting the data starting to come back from the BCA, really diving into investigating. So this second grant enhances what the first grant was going to be, they built in some potential overtime money in there, so if we dive into these cases, and we have one detective that's dedicated to this project, and this is all he works. But if he dives into a big case that he's going to need assistance, this second grant allows us to have some overtime where we can get reimbursed for other detectives assisting on those cases if need be. And so this takes what we did with grant 1 extends it an extra year and enhances it a little bit. And then you'll be hearing from us again, hopefully next year if we're successful. We just submitted our application for the same partnership and actually expanded the partnership with the county attorney's office to get some reimbursement for the prosecution and review of some of those cases down the road. And as we build up, the need for the prosecution will be as we get into this a few more years, because we're still in the building stage right now, and we'll get it reviewed to them. But so this is Saki 2. There'll probably be a Saki 3 that will yet take this and enhance it one step further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commander. First, I think it's especially this issue that it's on the news a lot, and we're hearing, so I thought it was important to bring the whole board up to date, what's going on with that. So I appreciate that update.
Thank you.
Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just commentary. I remember last year when the first grant was approved for this, and I'm just very pleased to see any and every attempt to bring justice for crimes against women. And thank you very much for the update and the good work. That was very good numbers. Thank you.
All right, we have a contract before us. If there's no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache? Aye. Commissioner Reinert?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
And that passes.
And that concludes my report.
All of them.
All of them.
Next, we'll move on to Agenda Item 8, Committee Appointments. First, we'll consider appointing Susan Carolyn, representing District 3, to the Community Health Advisory Committee for a term expiring April 30th of 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Motion by Commissioner West. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meisner. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, we'll consider Susan appointed. Next, we'll consider appointing Kristen Peterson, representing hospitals and clinics, replacing Ben Robeck, to the Emergency Medical Services Council for a term ending December 31st, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Brassad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That item passes. Well, I think before we adjourn, it's been brought to my attention that the determination has been made that we can actually enter closed session. We can close this meeting and enter a closed session pursuant to statute 13D.05 subdivision 3, paragraph 3 subdivision B. We would be closing that meeting based on discussions of attorney-client privileged information in regards to Bunker Beach. So with that, I would enter, Tony.
Chair, I might suggest that you recess this meeting and not adjourn the meeting. If you could, Brian Franz, I've just sent him an email. He is coming in person. I want to make sure that everything is consistent. So I would suggest that the wording of this meeting be recessed, pending for about another probably 25 minutes. We can
Perfect,
do that.
and I'll make it clear to everybody that we're not adjourning this meeting. We're going to go into a closed session, and then when we come out of closed session, we will adjourn this meeting. So for now, I would entertain a motion to recess this meeting for 25 minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Gamache. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Meisner to recess this meeting for 25 minutes. We'll reconvene at 11:05, and we will, at that point, enter a closed meeting.
And the agenda item that we could discuss would be the informational item, I think is number 5 on the Finance Capital Improvements Committees, just so there's no notice problem to the public. That was presented as part of the notice for this particular meeting. So it would be item number 5, I believe. Is that correct, Commissioner? Or Administrator Sivaraj, is that correct?
Let me look at I've got the agenda here. It is actually
4.
4.
Okay. So
All right.
for that
Does
purpose.
everybody understand the motion on the floor? Seeing Commissioner Look.
Mr. Chair, I think item 4 was the consolidation of elections and records
Sorry.
tax. Item 5 was fee reviews, It was the, following item 5 was the informational item. I'm sorry, no. Following that was an informational item for the finance system assessment. Then was an informational item for finance update. And then the last item was the COVID-19 discussion of Bunker Beach. So it was the last informational item on the agenda.
Unnumbered.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, so on the Finance and Capital Improvements Committee report, there were 4 action items. After that, there were 4 informational items. It is the 4th informational item that would be discussed.
Understood.
Yep.
Everybody knows what the motion is. We are going to recess until 5 minutes after 11, when we will reconvene, and then we will enter a closed session. Any further discussion? To discuss that item, the 4th informational item on the Finance and Capital Improvements Chair's report. We will have a roll call vote for this recess.
Commissioner Meisner? Aye. Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert? Aye. Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad? Aye. Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Schulte?
Aye. We are recessed.
We have HRA. Did that get canceled?
No, we do have HRA.
I saw.
I think the management report was canceled. I'm going to check and see if we can do it. call us back into session. It's 11:05, and I would ask that pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, Subdivision 3, Paragraph B, that we would close the meeting for attorney-client privileged discussions as it relates to the Finance and Capital Improvements Chair Report, informational item number 4, Bunker Beach. With that, I would entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Gamache. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meisner to close the meeting. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, unanimously, we will close the meeting, and I will turn off the microphones, and we will have our conversation amongst ourselves as it regards to this, with a reminder that Okay. The mics are back on. We are now back in open session. We have just concluded our closed session where we discussed some issues on the Bunker Beach Water Park and its proposed construction or reconstruction. No votes were taken. We just used it as an informational period for all commissioners to come up to speed on where we're at completely. We discussed legal advice from our counsel, and we just came out of that closed session, and we are back in open session, and I will declare this meeting now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.